Somi moved to Lagos, Nigeria, my own country.
That's
Look
right.
at me stumbling. Dead
excited.
wrong for
That's
that.
okay.
She moved to Lagos, Nigeria in search of inspiration.
And she found that and so much more while living in one of the continent's most vibrant and colorful cities. Here to discuss her sabbatical abroad, her new album, The Lagos Music Salon, is a woman who needs only one name, Somi.
Somi!
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, clearly you're a better Nigerian than I am, Somi. Clearly. So you put on an amazing show at Joe's Pub last night.
Thank you.
What was it
Thank
like
you so
for you to
much.
be back here performing before a Big Apple stage?
It was wonderful. It was just so great to kind of be back in this city that I feel has raised me, you know, artistically, creatively, professionally, socially, and just to be sort of surrounded by people who support me through, you know, musically, but then also just so many friends were there as well. So it was just wonderful to kind of come back and, yeah, you know, New York, you can kind of sort of feel burnt out after a while, and I think being away from it for so long and then coming back and feeling so in love with the city again, it was just so wonderful.
And it
last
sounds
night.
like everybody was in love with you because New Yorkers will tell you if you're not doing a good job.
They
And
will
Lola
tell
said
you.
the crowd was rocking right along with you.
They really
It was a wonderful time.
There were
It was a
lots of
beautiful night.
dancing, lots of swaying, lots of singing along.
Lots of singing along.
And you know, the thing that I thought, the call and response, like when you would say to the crowd, say this, they were right there with you.
It was a beautiful night.
Beautiful
really
night.
beautiful night.
So talk to us about this new album, Somi. It was inspired by your living in Lagos. Why Lagos, first of all?
Well, I think, well, firstly, obviously people always ask me that question because I'm not Nigerian as you are.
Yes.
I'm originally from Rwanda and Uganda, East Africa. So when people ask me that, I think there are two sort of sides to it. One side is, you know, why wouldn't I go to East Africa, right? And then I think the other side is, why would I leave New York City, like the kind of epicenter of the industry and culture and the arts? And so for me, the reason I didn't go to East Africa is really because I wanted to go somewhere that still kept me on my toes, you know, had enough like familiar things about it that Africanisms, you know, that kind of kept me feeling as though I was at home, but enough sort of foreignness that kind of helped me have a different perspective. I think if I'd gone home to East Africa, I would have kind of gone there anticipating a certain thing.
It might have felt too familiar.
Yeah, too familiar. And then also, I mean, just in terms of what's happening on the continent, I mean, you guys know Arise is one of the things that are coming out of the continent, and it's fantastic to see the sort of energy that's pulsating throughout the whole media and entertainment industry. So Lagos is really dominating that. And Nigeria's always been a cultural powerhouse. I just wanted to kind of tap into that energy and the energy of the city itself. It's so much like New York, but with like an African remix.
You said, wait, I'm sorry, you said Nigeria has always been a what?
A cultural giant.
Powerhouse.
A powerhouse.
Yes. Just want to make sure that was on the
Shout out to the homeland. Shout out.
It has been.
Well, you know, I think that's one of the exciting things about your music and your lyrics. You really capture your time that was spent there. You even incorporate some of the dialect and some of the slang from the culture from there.
I think I really wanted to sort of step outside of, I mean, I could have easily stayed in Manhattan and written some sort of, you know, some love songs or just continue to do what I've been doing. But I just, you know, at some point you kind of get to a place where you feel like maybe you're almost becoming too comfortable. And as an artist, that's just never a place that you want to feel, you know, because I definitely know that there's so much more that I haven't accomplished or I haven't gotten to, you know. And so I just thought if I sort of step outside of my comfort zone, maybe that's what I need, that push to sort of shake it up, you know, and sort of get out of the routine of New York and not sort of coast. And so I did try to take the energy and the inspiration and the stories that were around me.
Talk to us about the slang.
Yes.
Because there's some slang in particular that you used in some of your songs last night, which I just love.
Well, there's a song called Ginger Me Slowly. Is that the one you're talking about?
Ginger me
Exactly.
slowly.
Ginger me slowly. So to ginger someone, in Nigeria you'd say ginger. You know, you say it's like Niger pigeon is like ginger, right? So you'd say like to ginger someone is to like spice them up, make them feel good. And I just thought it was so charming. You know, it's actually like an old British colloquialism apparently, maybe left behind at independence. I don't know, but they still use it, and they'll be like, you know, ginger him now, or like if somebody kind of upsets you, you can just tell them to ginger you. So I wrote the song called Ginger Me Slowly. It's a love song, just telling a man sort of how to take his time, you know, and also
Ginger,
sort of
you're
speaking to the
slowly now.
Nigerian men who can be very like deliberate, as you know.
Yes, very
In their
aggressive.
intentions.
Yes.
So it's like, no, I won't get on a jet and run off to London this weekend. You know, it's like, let's just, you know.
Well, how long did it really take you to really pick up the flavor of the locals, you know, and really, because you have to really embody it from it to come across naturally as you do in your music. So how long did that take?
I would say, I think the first 6 months, honestly, the first 3 months, I probably was just like, I was very sort of euphoric, you know, about being back on the continent, you know, this sort of romanticism sort of overtook everything for me emotionally. But then at some point you're like, okay, it's a little crazy, it's a little wild out here. What am I doing? Did I just make the biggest mistake? And it was probably about 6 months, 7 months in, that I began to sort of see a thread in the music that I was writing. Before, it was just feeling like whatever I felt like writing. There was no theme, there was no decision. And the reason I call it the Lagos Music Salon is to kind of create this room of stories, this room of experiences, and this sort of conversation with myself, conversation with the city. And I didn't really become clear about that concept until about 6, 7 months in. I think it just takes some time to kind of really let the pulse of a place get inside of you, you know, and for me, I just really wanted to be clear about what I wanted to say next, creatively as well.
Favorite Nigerian food?
Efforiro. So funny.
I like
He's
it.
like, yeah, you know that.
No clue. Actually, but now I'm interested. I'm like, oh,
It's like it's like one of the only vegetarian things I can pretty much eat. They do sometimes put meat in it, I think. It's like greens. It's basically like
sounds like
greens.
something I would like.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
you have Angelique Kidjo on this album, and you also collaborated with his name. I'm gonna butcher his name, unfortunately, because I'm a bad Nigerian, but it's Kobas, the producer.
Kobams, yes.
And he's actually blind. How did that work, and how did that come to be?
Kobams, I met him, just the people there thought, you know what, there's this producer here who I think that you'll have so much chemistry with. He essentially is one of the producers on the continent who's doing something a little bit more, I guess, not so mainstream. You know, a lot of the stuff that's coming out of the continent right now is like pop heavy, you know, not to say there's anything wrong with pop, because Lord knows I love all of that music. But Kobams is responsible for like Asha and Bez. I don't know if you're familiar with those artists. And he is completely blind, but completely capable. I've probably never felt more humbled by somebody's gift of music. I mean, he's never known how to write or read music, but like plays everything, you know, and has a keen sense of African music, but also really strong pop sensibilities too. So it was nice to work with him.
All right, well, it sounds like you're working with a lot of great people, but when you first started off and you have this big dream of being a singer, your parents must have went crazy, because Lola tells me that, you know, Nigerian parents or just African parents in general can be very strict and not too keen on their kids going into the arts. So what did your parents say when you said, oh, I'm going to be a singer instead of going and get a 9 to 5?
Right. I mean, I definitely relate to that. I think most African parents are quite conservative in their views. I've been fortunate enough to have parents who have been incredibly supportive and always sort of recognized my interest in the arts and music at a very young age. They didn't necessarily think I'd be a professional artist, but they were like, okay, yes, we'll give you cello lessons, and you know, you'll be a cultured, well-rounded human being. And it was actually my mother at some point in college when she was like, well, why don't you also major in music? And I was like, oh, I'm going to be here forever. I didn't study music formally in university. But it's interesting how your parents actually know you before you know yourself.
Wow.
You know, and so I always think back to that moment and think about how they've always, both my mother and my father, have always sort of cheerled.
And believed in you.
Yeah, and whenever they expressed any worry, when I first got to New York and was like, I'm going to pursue this, I think it's really just coming from a place of love. And they never said no. I think that was the most important thing for me.
Lesson to the parents out there.
Yeah, well, they must be so pleased with your tremendous success. You've been compared to Sarah Vaughan, Miriam Makeba. Your last album debuted at #2 on the world charts. I mean, come on, you're a TED fellow? This is incredible.
And you're also going to be going on tour soon, right?
I am.
Tell us about the tour.
Okay.
I'm spending most of the summer in Europe, sort of beginning to share a lot of this new music, the stuff that Lola heard last night. So I'm going to be out there and trying to put my feet on the European market side of things. So yeah, I'm just going to be out there until about the end of July, and then I'll be back in the States getting ready to gear up to start sharing some of the music in North America.
And will you be performing in Lagos? That's the question.
Probably in November.
In November.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds
Probably
like a
in
good
November.
excuse for us to go over there.
Sounds like it. I would love to show you. Well, you know the spot. Well, he needs to come
we
on.
got to take you to Lagos.
You need to
I'm
come
ready.
to Lagos.
Trust me, I'm ready.
Okay. Somi, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
here and
so
keep up the
much.
amazing work. Really
Thank
proud of you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're watching Arise Entertainment 360.